Hey guys, and welcome to Two Girls, Two Cups podcast, where we talk shit and drink from cups.
That was so good.
OMG. Okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube and not just listening, we are actually together in person instead of over Zoom. And so we actually got to click our drinks together in person. It was a big moment for the podcast. But we'll get right to it. So what is in your mug today?
Today, special edition, it's literally just vodka and grapefruit juice.
Ooh. So for me, slight variation. I've got a little bit too much tequila, which you might be able to tell if you listen to the whole episode. A little bit of Health Aid lemon lime flavor kombucha drink.
Not sponsored.
And then also grapefruit juice. So, yeah. So when I'm not drinking, I'm usually... Her cat is making a little noise. But when I'm not drinking, I'm usually pretty self-aware of my pronunciation, and I try to be as clear as possible. But as I drink more and more, maybe that won't be the case. So
we'll see.
I guess we'll just find out. We are already both one drink in.
Yes.
We wanted to get a little lubed up, loosened up. Lubricated?
No, that's worse. I like loosened is better than. Well, we'll get a little funky.
And yeah, so we'll see how this goes. It's not Diana's first time on the podcast with a alcoholic drink, but it is mine.
Last week I had a side tangent. I had an 8% Bold Rock extra bold drink or whatever. Yeah. Not sponsored, and literally by the end of it I was a little bit tipsy. My tolerance doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah, I found that out last Saturday where I went to brunch with some friends and I only drank champagne, but I was gone. I was the most drunk I have been since 2019.
Maybe ever. No, not really.
No. I've been more drunk than that. I've had absinthe before. But yeah, so any weekly updates for you, Diana?
Yes. So last time I talked about how I was stressed out about moving and the New York real estate process. My update is still think the process is stupid, but we got approved, so it's all fine.
I told her it was gonna happen for
her. And I figured that it would work out. It just was so annoying getting it to the place where we were, because we after this discussion, the next day we got it, or actually it was later that night, I think.
Oh, wow.
That we got approved, because I was on a call with some of my other friends, and while I was on my call, I was oh my god, I just got an apartment, and they were we don't care. Love you guys. and then we went up to New York to do stuff and sign paperwork and whatever. And they were we won't approve you for 2 years. And we were fuck off, please do, though. And we did a bunch of back and forth, and we did get approved for 2 years. So, yay.
Yeah, but I remember, talking to you, and you were oh, it probably won't happen. It's really competitive in New York. But I was
yeah.
Honestly, a lot of people are desperate. And I have a good feeling, I think you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And it was a painful process still, but you still got it.
It was, so we're moving with one of our friends who already lives up there, and his process of getting the apartment he's currently in was, way worse, so he really didn't expect to get it, and I think I was getting, my expectations from him. But the other issue is that normally this apartment that we got would be, way out of our price range, super expensive, but, with the pandemic, it's, a lot cheaper, and so we didn't, there's these deals and stuff, so you have a net rent, and we made enough money to qualify for the net rent, but we didn't make enough money technically to qualify for the gross rent, pre-deals. And so that was why I didn't think we would get it, and then they were just kidding, we have no one else, so it's fine.
Because push come to shove, they really are desperate for tenants.
And we will pay,
especially
we're going
for,
to pay, because between where I live now and where my roommate and I live together here, and where our future roommate lives, our joint rent is more than what they're charging, and so obviously we've been paying our rent. The three of us together have been paying more rent than we are going to be paying in our future apartment, so we can afford it. Anyway, we got it. That's my update for the week.
But yeah, very exciting. A huge,
yes,
not a huge relief, but
it is a relief
to be done with that.
Yeah, it's a relief to know that it's finished and to be ready to go, and we are booking our movers tomorrow, and so after we're booked and stuff, then we're good.
Yeah.
All we have to do is pack.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is just sort of like the season or if it's specifically like a post-pandemic thing, but I actually have a lot of friends that are moving within the month of June.
Yeah, that's like probably, I think it's like the most common month.
Yeah, and so I think people are like headed back to work or like finally deciding to make a change now that things are slightly more safe these days.
Yeah.
So I actually have a lot of friends that are moving. I actually, most of those are due to grad school as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But, and honestly, my mom's like, Silvana, go to grad school in Europe so I can move with you and we can start a new life together. And I'm
Mom.
like, okay, Mom, but like, I need to be an adult anyways. Yeah. But yeah, any weekly updates on my side? I'm here on a trip home, actually. I decided to, make a late Mother's Day trip back home to see my mom. But also, I needed to go to the dentist. We love still being on your parents' health insurance. We love dental. And I also wanted to see my little puppy dog, my little baby.
She got to meet my cat for the first time.
That is a lie. I've met your cat before.
Have you?
Yeah. I stayed with you once in June, remember?
Yeah, but my cat left. Oh, no, she didn't. She left one of the times.
I've actually stayed with you twice.
And one of the times my mom took my cat.
I think we're just coming to terms with the fact that none of us have any solid memory of our of our lives together.
Whatever. Never mind. She's met my cat.
I've met her cat before. Cute cat.
Yes, she's cute, but
I think I've met your cat like twice.
Probably. Because doesn't matter. None of this matters right now.
But very cute cat. Actually, two of my friends have black cats. We love black cats. A lot of pets who have black fur are actually the least likely to get adopted.
Yeah.
So
especially
please
black
adopt
cats,
black-furred animals. They're
she was
so
born
precious.
in a shelter, and I adopted her when she was like 11 months old or 9 months old. Whatever. She'd been in a shelter like her entire life, and she hadn't gotten adopted because she's like a black cat. But I'm like, who could look at like a tiny kitten and be like,
yeah, because people have those superstitions or whatever. But
because when I adopted her, they were like, well, the last like recorded weight we have for her is 1.15 pounds.
Oh my God.
I was like, this is an adult cat.
Precious.
She weighs 10 pounds.
But yeah, besides that, any hits or shits, I guess, honestly, this is usually like a shit or a downside for most people, but I took a bus home and I actually love bus rides. Like, I know most people, it's not their preferred mode of transportation.
We took the train up and back for like the first time in years probably, and I was like, this is great. I love this.
I do love a train, but I feel like anytime I have to like meet at a terminal and get there at a specific time and like I feel rushed or whatever, it can be somewhat stressful.
Yeah, just not having to deal with any traffic.
Yeah,
was ideal.
I did like a ton of solo travel just domestically in college, and I would always take buses because they were the cheapest mode of transportation. And so just anytime I'm like on a bus, I feel just like really safe. Like as soon as I get on and I like made it on time and I know I'm going in the right direction, like I just sit there and like fall asleep, listen to music, stare out the window, and it's such like a peaceful time for me because like I know I'm not driving the car, so I'm just like I just have to relax.
I think that's why trains are
these
so nice.
4 hours of set aside time where I have nothing to do. Like I can't do work on a train or a bus, so I'm like I don't put that pressure on myself to be productive with that time. Yeah. So I'm just very like introspective. I listen to music.
Just listen to 4 hours.
Very
of
relaxing. Definitely a highlight of my week. Yeah. And then in terms of downsides, I mean,
I didn't read I literally was like, I'm going to read so much while I'm going, because I was like, I'm going to read the whole way up on the train, I'm going to read the whole way back on the train, and then I literally just listened to podcasts the whole time and did not read it.
And honestly, I get pretty car sick when I read.
On trains, I'm usually fine. On buses, it's kind of hit or miss with me, but on trains, usually I'm fine. I just like didn't want to.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm like old school, pre-technology. I love a good window. I love a good window.
I just literally like stared out the
pass.
window and listened to podcasts.
Yeah. I like fell asleep after like the first 30 minutes of my bus ride, and I woke up to like the suburbs of South Jersey, just like seeing the colonial architecture. I'm like, I'm home.
Home in South Jersey.
Just like recognizing the architecture of like the mid-Atlantic. I'm just like, I feel it. But honestly, I love traveling, so right now, no downsides for me. I guess the only downside would be like I ran out of my magnesium supplements. So I like had a headache for a few days.
Classic.
Because I take magnesium to help with my stress headaches. But I went to the vitamin shop. I got more magnesium, all sorted. So, fair sailing ahead.
I don't think I have any downsides other than not reading as much, because it's like my downside is like, oh, I had to work, but I'm like, I have to work all the time and it's fine. So
just a
it was
regular
weird though, because
girl.
normally when we go to New York, we like come back on the weekend, but this time we were coming back on a Monday evening, and so we had like we were there Wednesday through Friday and we worked, and then we were there on the weekend and we didn't work obviously because it's weekend, and then Monday we had to like wake up still in New York and like work, and it just was like, it was different than waking up Thursday the week before and working, because like we hadn't done anything. But then it was like, oh, we lived these 2 days where you're like out doing stuff and we're like exhausted because we've been like sleeping on the floor, and like now we have to like work a whole day and then like take a train back. I don't know, we were exhausted basically at the end of Monday. We were like, oh my god,
that's stressful.
But now it's Wednesday. Spoiler alert, I don't know if we were gonna say that, but it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
And now I'm like reset, so
yeah, I don't know. That is something I miss about college/shift work, was that it was definitely like I was able to set my own schedule. So I wasn't like, I didn't live sort of like working from 9 to 5 and had to like schedule around that, which is why I also love traveling on like weekdays, because usually rates are cheaper. And also like I love driving when nobody else is on the road and like not having to deal with rush hour and stuff like that. Definitely.
We like thankfully have the flexibility to do that, which is why we came back on a Monday instead of Sunday.
Yeah, like remote work really revolutionized everything.
But so like normally like when we're moving on like a Tuesday or whatever, because it's like cheaper and it's easier. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. It's great. It's nice to have the flexibility. But no, I can't like really readjust my schedule. It's just like I need to know in advance, like, oh, I'm gonna be out for these hours or whatever, and it's fine.
Yeah, but it's definitely like, I'm someone who's like sort of applying and trying to like get a job that's 9 to 5, and it's sort of that like half in, half out of like, oh, I really want that stability, that sort of
like
more consistent lifestyle. But I'm also like, I did like that sort of life where I felt like with shift work, I could like finish my shift and then go to the grocery store and no one would be there, Yeah. Like I loved that feeling of like everybody else going to do something, and you have that sort of like alone time, or sort of that like I can do stuff when everybody else is doing something else.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, when I move, I'm gonna find like the time that is the least popular time to go to the grocery store, and that'll be the time to go to the grocery store.
But honestly,
I'll put it on my calendar as like a recurring meeting.
In New York, I'll honestly like go to Trader Joe's at like midday Tuesday when I think everybody's at work.
And it's crowded.
And it's line out the door.
Because we're gonna live, I don't want to say specifically where we're gonna live. We're gonna live in Midtown. And like the closest grocery store to us is the Whole Foods at Columbus Circle, which is always a nightmare. Damn. Literally always.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, Monday morning at 8 a.m. That's when we're gonna go to the grocery store.
That's also like, my life is sort of up in the air right now, but my lease ends June 15th, and I've spent this year literally 1 block away from Trader Joe's, and it's been such a luxury.
I'm like, I'll have to take the train if I want to go to Trader Joe's.
My budget for groceries like isn't that high, and like it's so easy just like having to carry things only 1 block. I don't have to like use a cart or like take the train. And honestly, it's like wherever I live, like, like I'll be grateful. But like, and honestly, like my apartment is like, it's really good for like my budget and stuff. But like, I'm afraid if I don't live a block away from Trader Joe's, every other place I live, I'm like, but that one apartment, man, like I'll just reminisce for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because I'm already sad, because from this apartment we can walk to Trader Joe's. It's like half a mile or something. Yeah. It takes not that long. And obviously it's not New York City, so it's not like crowded all the time. Yeah. But in my new apartment, we're going to have to take a train to Trader Joe's. No matter which one we go to, like all of them are a train right away. And I'm sad about it. Yeah. But I think I'm just going to find the time of day, and I'm just going to take an hour and take the train down to Trader Joe's and come back.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's worth it to not have to go to like a really overpriced grocery store.
Yeah, but it's definitely a weird time where I'm sort of planning for the next phase of my life. Yeah. And it's like, if I do end up in like a 9 to 5 job, like I'll be so grateful. But I'm also
You'll
like...
sigh heavily every morning.
I'll definitely miss that side of shift work that gives me that flexibility and like sort of somewhat control over my schedule. But also like I did shift work for like 3.5 years, and it does like, it really takes a lot out of you. So it's like you wish you could get the best of both worlds, but like it's hard to actually find a job that like really checks all those boxes off.
There is no best of both worlds.
So you hope for the best, but you also prepare to like work an average job like most people.
Yeah.
But you know, I also like the idea of having multiple jobs and multiple careers throughout your life, that you don't have to like step into this kind of job when you're 25 and then like do the same thing for the rest of your life, you know? And I also think like with the younger generations, like they are moving past that. So
Yo, for sure.
Fingers crossed, yo. Power to the young people. But anyways, so this week our sort of theme is, our sort of discussion topic is personality tests. So I feel like everybody's heard of the Myers-Briggs test. Everybody sort of, you know, is asked to take the test, like in their high school psych class, intro to psych in college.
We took it in middle school.
Oh, really? Damn. I took it in my AP psych class.
And my personality type has not changed since middle school. My percentages of each one have shifted a little bit, but I've still been the same.
I haven't taken
every year
personality tests in like a few years, but I think early high school, late high school, and like once in college, in terms of Myers-Briggs, I've always been INFJ, and that hasn't changed.
INFP.
Ooh, and like my percentage about J versus P has been sort of like 40-60, like it's...
Yeah. But I don't know all of my breakdown. I just know the first time I ever took it, I got 100% I. And I was like, ooh.
Same.
And so I think now, I'm not quite 100% I now. Or at least there was a time in my life where I was like, I am a lot more extroverted now than I used to be. I think I might have like reverted back a little bit. But you know.
And honestly, the Myers-Briggs test has like seen a lot of controversy in terms of the legitimacy of it. And also like, well, actually being introverted means this versus that. And I've always been a more like, I guess, relatively shy person or a guarded person. Yeah. But also it's like once I'm comfortable with you, like I'm super outgoing. I just like hate meeting new people, and it like takes a lot out of me. But I also gain energy from being around people like I'm super close with. So.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like I need to take it while I'm like really drunk, because my personality when I'm really drunk is like totally different.
Well, we've created that scenario over
my
here.
God. It takes so long though. It's such a long test.
But here's the thing is that when I looked it up, INFJ is actually one of the rarest personalities out there. And like half the time when I meet someone new, they're an INFJ. And I don't know if it's because I attract people who are like that, or it's a lie and it's actually not the rarest personality, or it is and people just like think they're an INFJ when they're really not. But I mean, I think it stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. And honestly, judging versus perceiving, like, it's sort of semantics at a certain point. Like, I feel like most people sort of just like...
This is Maddie's. My roommate is an ENFP, which is just the extroverted version of me. IST.
Because also sometimes I'm like, maybe I would have been an extrovert if I didn't go through, like, trauma as a kid, you know? Which is also why I kind of gravitated towards the Enneagram, which... is sort of like, instead of 16 personality types, it's like a base 9 types of personalities. And the more I looked into it, it's actually like, it's not something that like you're born this personality and like you can change and grow, but like you're always this, or like you can change from this number to that number, but actually like the way the Enneagram is formed, according to what I found on the internet, if someone has found something else, they can totally like tell me and prove me wrong. But from what I've been told, the Enneagram is like, if like once you go through certain life experiences or trauma, your Enneagram type is how you chose to adapt in response to that trauma. So your sort of like type number is just like, this is how you respond to those situations. So given your personality number, like there can be like a healthy version of that personality or like an unhealthy personality. And then like if you're like a type 9, say, which is like what I've been categorized at most of the time. Like, sometimes they'll say, like, oh, a type 9 in a growth period of their life will act like a type 6 or something, or a type 3, or whatever the number is. I'm not sure. But when they're in sort of like a weak period of their life where they're like kind of down in the dumps or like not as healthy as they could be, they act more like this type. So it's a bit more malleable and sort of depends on your life experiences rather than like some innate predisposition, which I think other personality types rely on. I've also taken the color personality test, which is, I think the only colors are white, red, blue, and yellow. And most people are type blue, but I'm actually a type white, which fits in more with a type 9, which I am a type 9 on the Enneagram. I think you are too.
My results say that I'm a 98% match with type 9.
Oh, wow.
So my highest are 9, 2, 4, and 5. So that probably means nothing to a lot of you. I can read the descriptions for some of them. But
I think also the last time I took the Enneagram a few years ago, I was also a high type 9, and then I was maybe a wing 1, and then I also had a lot of traits to do with type 6. But I like tried to take a test really quickly before this podcast episode.
It was not quickly.
And it told me
it took like an hour.
I'm so sorry. I was drinking. Anyways, but I actually turned out to be a type 6, which is what I thought I would be before I took my first test. So I could be like sort of teetering on the 2, or I could just be like in a really unhealthy stage of my life and I'm acting more like a type 6 rather than a type 9. But
I think there's like a lot of anxiety permeating the world.
Also read on the internet that instead of taking a test when it comes to the Enneagram, if you read all 9 descriptions, the one you gravitate towards the most is the one that sort of is yours. Like, it's not about taking a test, it's more like recognizing yourself in a description.
I think that that's like a good way of deciding for most people. Yeah. But some people are just really bad at like introspection and being honest.
That's the thing, is that some people, it's hard to see themselves from an objective point of view. Yeah. But on sort of the flip side of that, like, no one really knows you as well as yourself.
Yeah, some people are really good at it.
Nobody else is like also sitting with you throughout the day, knowing your thoughts and stuff. Yeah. So,
and I feel like generally the type of people who are going to be like, I wonder what Enneagram I am, like, probably
like people who are drawn to personality tests are also pretty introspective. So, but yeah, I definitely, the type 9 is called the Peacemaker, I'm pretty sure. And it's something I definitely resonated with. And I listened to this podcast actually 2 years ago. It was this like small podcast with these 2 people based out of Nashville. And that's part of why I was drawn to the podcast, because I loved hearing that Southern accent. I was like, I don't know, something about it was just like, felt like honey. I think I just loved their tone of voice. But they spoke about that personality. One was sort of just like a personality test enthusiast, because it was a podcast specifically about the Enneagram. And the other was actually a family life therapist. And he was someone who was like, I'm a registered therapist. And it's not like like this whole belief system or whatever, but I believe the Enneagram is like a tool to sort of think about yourself and how you interact with people. It's not a sort of like, I think of people in terms of these 9 identities, but it's like, it's a tool to sort of look at how you behave and how you think and stuff like that. And he described type 9s as people who they value peace more than anything else. So when they encounter conflict, they'll take all these different perspectives that they're sort of observing and taking in and resolve it within themselves, rather than lash out and be super confrontational and argumentative and stuff like that. Well, they'll see different sides of a lot of things and they'll sort of take it within themselves, form their own opinion, but also say like, hey, I disagree with you, but because I can understand your point of view, like, we can get along, but that doesn't mean that I agree with you. Yeah. So he sort of used the example as he was sort of arguing with his wife, and they would sort of talk it out. And his wife would leave the conversation thinking, I won him over. Like, I explained myself and he agreed with me. So now we can move on. He's like, no. Acknowledging that I was right. Whereas he was like, we didn't resolve anything, but we were able to like see each other's side and
we just agreed to disagree.
Like we're not angry at each other, but we agreed to disagree. So that was very interesting to me because I am very, it's not that I'm non-confrontational, like I'm not afraid of saying things.
Super I am afraid of everything.
If I'm with someone who I'm disagreeing with, or if I see someone act in a way that I'm like, that's not okay, I'll either remove myself from the situation, or I'll be like, okay, that's cool, but I won't get angry at them, but I'll sort of be like, okay, like I understand you're seeing it this way, but like I'll sort of de-escalate the situation really well, but I won't be able to be like, I won't be able to convince them to see things my way, but I'll sort of de-escalate the situation where it's like, I'll resolve it within myself and I'll like be able to accept both sides so that I'm not an angry person. But like, it's that resolution of getting people on the same page that I'm like, I'm not confrontational enough to reach that point. Yeah. Which is where I think I struggle.
Yeah, I don't really have anything new to add. I avoid confrontation as much as I possibly can. I actually thought this was funny because
like I won't agree with someone, but because I don't approach a situation with anger, I think a lot of people think I agree with them.
Yeah, it's just like not worth the fight most of the time.
Because that's the thing, is that my caliber of like reaching a level of what's important enough for me to fight someone on is really high. Yeah. That like,
because
most of the time I'll be like, I don't care, so I'll just like, I'll let it slide and roll off my back so that I can focus on other things.
Yeah, because people generally don't change their minds in an argument. Like, it's very hard to convince someone. And so usually, like, if you acknowledge that, you're like, I know that I'm not going to change this person's mind, but I need this conversation to end.
So a lot of times I'll like approach a situation where I'll add things where I'm like, well, actually, like I'll share a different perspective, or like, I heard actually someone said this, or like it's actually this way or whatever, and sort of gauge the reaction. But I won't, like, it's not necessary for me to leave a situation having convinced the other person. Like, I don't feel responsible for like how someone else thinks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel that need for someone to agree with me. But I do feel that need, like, if someone's angry, or if I could feel someone feeling tension with somebody else, like, I feel the need to be like, okay, like, let's talk about things calmly. Like, I don't like being in a tense atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So as long as I can bring that tension down, I'm okay. But I don't necessarily need to be like, oh, I need to resolve the situation, or we need to like agree. But I don't know. I do get into trouble sometimes though, because like I'll let too many things slide. And then like sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, if I cared a little bit more about the situation, I could have gotten more out of it. Like, I'm the first person to let go. Whereas sometimes I feel like, oh, maybe I should have fought for something a little bit more. For me, I don't want to waste energy on a lost cause when I think other people will be like more willing to fight for either their right to be heard or to be right in a situation. Whereas I don't feel the need to be validated by being heard by someone else. But sometimes that means that I don't get heard. And sometimes, you know, that would have benefited the situation.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like toe that line, you know? Yeah. But that's also why like I resonated so much with the type 9 instead of 6. Although I did resonate with a lot of the description of 6. So do you actually want to go ahead and read the description of a type 9 so maybe people can understand a little bit more about what we're talking about? These descriptions are
like really, really short. These are like the one sentence descriptions. I don't have the long descriptions, but the type 9 is also called the Peacemaker. 9s like to keep a low profile and let the people around them set the agenda. Yeah. Which is sort of similar to what we discussed. I actually thought this was interesting because it says that I'm 98% 9, and then my MBTI, or the Myers-Briggs personality type, is INFP, which is known as the mediator, and it's like this very similar thing. So I thought that was like interesting that they were consistent. And the 6, which Silvana has mentioned a few times, is the skeptic. 6s are preoccupied with security, seek safety, and like to be prepared for problems. Yeah. I feel like this one would have a tendency to come out more in like times of like heightened anxiety or crisis.
So I think that's why, because I took the test right before this episode, like maybe that came up, is because the past year has been a super anxious time for me, whereas in other more stable parts of my life, like I did function as a type 9.
Yeah, I think it's related to sort of like recent, I don't know, events that might have claimed some of your headspace or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say my lowest match is type 1, which is basically just like a type A personality, which is the perfectionist. And it's type 1s place a lot of emphasis on following the rules and doing things correctly, which apparently I don't do.
See, because I'm pretty sure the last time I took a test and ended up type 9, I had a wing 1. Because I think you can only have wings that are like next to your number. Yeah. And I'm definitely not a type 8. I'm not a loud person at all.
I was gonna say 8 is like the opposite of 9, because 8 is the challenger. 8 see themselves as strong and powerful and seek to stand up for what they believe in, which never. And that's my second lowest. Because I'm not
afraid of confrontation. Like if I know something's important to me, like that kills the butterflies of speaking up. But it's just where I sort of place that standard or that boundary. But I think the way I relate to 1 is I feel like oftentimes following the rules creates the least amount of tension. Yeah, so it's like, even if I disagree, I'll follow the rules to like make the other person happy if like the thing we're dealing with isn't super important to me. Or like, I know, like as long as I get what I want at the end of it, like I'm willing to make compromises in the process.
Yeah, I think if I had taken this test when I was younger, like early high school, like school age basically, I think I probably would have been higher in number 1.
Oh, really?
But I think as an adult, I'm just at a point, like I took this a couple months ago. Like there are like rules in that there are laws and stuff, but like other than that, like I don't feel like there are a whole lot of rules that like rule my life, because my job is like pretty flexible.
Yeah.
I have like a lot of freedom in like making my own decisions. I like obviously live on my own. Like I don't feel like I'm confined to a certain set of rules other than like the laws or whatever. Yeah. And so I relate to that less now than I would have as a kid.
I'm definitely also someone who's, you know, like I'm skeptic of the institutions and authority figures in the world. So like I can understand, like I accept the fact that I live in a society and I have to follow rules, like because there are consequences if I don't. But I'm also like, my moral code isn't set by the rules of an outside force.
Yeah, and I guess like societal rules, I'm like, I acknowledge that they exist and that there are like norms. Because I'm also, but I don't think that I don't think that I face those kinds of decisions all that often. In like the circles that I surround myself with.
Because also I feel like not a lot of people would expect me to be so anti-authority, but I really truly am. But it's the thing, I'm not gonna, you know, make a fuss or make an issue about it, because I like if I'm not gonna make any leeway or make any change with being super loud and confrontational, then it's not worth it for me. Like I'm gonna save my energy, versus like I don't really think I'm all the way on like the 1 personality type side, because like I strive to be the best that I can if it's worth it for me. But also if like I reach a point of diminishing returns, I'm not a perfectionist where I'm going to like hurt other sides of myself to strive for like this perfection in this one area of my life. Like I think I'm pretty good at knowing when to give up on that. I struggle to write a first draft of an essay unless like I phrase it completely the way I want to, until I have an hour left to submit the paper, and then I'm like, fuck it. Like I'll do what I need to do to get the grade that I need in order to like move up to the next level or to get the grade that I want, you know? Like I reach a level that I'm just like, I'm not a perfectionist. But I also like, I do want to be the best that I can be. But I definitely wouldn't consider myself a perfectionist in terms of like hurting myself in order to achieve perfection. No, like I definitely know where the line is in terms of that. And I do attribute that to my parents of like, you know, not being super strict and being like, you have to get all A's and stuff like that.
I think that there's a certain level of like anxiety or inability to like inability to hope. I think it's like pessimism mostly. That I'm like, I acknowledge that there is no way that anything I do will ever be perfect. Yeah. So like why even realism. Try? Yeah, it's like I'm too realistic to ever be a perfectionist.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like...
And I think I've been like that basically my whole life. Like, I don't think I've ever, like, strived for
And I also, like,
and
I
I'm
don't
really
know...
not competitive.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is sort of a response to your environment versus, like, who you sort of, like, intrinsically were as a child.
Yeah. My sister's always been very competitive, and I've never been competitive.
I remember being in soccer, and, like, I did travel soccer. I was, you know, I did pretty advanced levels of soccer in terms of, like, teams and divisions and stuff. But my one critique from my coach was always like, you need to be more competitive and aggressive. No. Like, you need to fight for it. And I'm like...
never aggressive.
I'm not
horrible
like, physically, I wasn't going to hurt anybody. Yeah. So, like, once it got to that point where I, like, needed to push someone, I was like, well, I'm not going to, like, hurt this girl in order to get the ball. Like, I'm not that competitive.
I'd rather be
the other person. And that was where my coach was like, no, that's when you need to fight for it. And that's when where it's like,
I think
Peacemaker.
From like a really, so my sister is very, very competitive, and she's a horrible loser. Like, she knows she's a sore loser. And I think there's a part of me that, like, growing up, I'm like, it's never worth the reward of winning to see someone else so upset.
Because when I know like, it's I don't
care.
Thing.
I don't care if I lose, but I know that other people do. And so, like, why would I take that away from them when I don't care?
Because I also wasn't someone who, like, got validation from winning or getting a good grade or something, because I knew it was sort of like this outside source that was giving me the validation.
That validated me.
Like, I liked getting good grades in terms of, like, if I got good grades, I was able to get in certain things, or, like, I knew I needed this to get to the college I wanted to go to, or, like, get the experiences I wanted to.
I think, again, it's probably for being a younger sibling, and I had a really high achieving sister where I was like, she gets really good grades, I can't be dumber than her. Like, that would be crazy.
For me, actually, it was, my parents were very, like, well, we know you're smart, so, like, we know if you worked hard, you could get, like, an A. But it's in terms of, like, you're not working hard enough.
Yeah, and I think I just didn't want to disappoint
So for me,
and there was a lot of internal disappointment if I was like, I know that I could have done better.
For me, it was like, well, if it's worth the effort, I should get this grade so that, like, I could, you know, get all the rewards of, like, having a good GPA, like, getting into a good college, or, like, being able to, like, you know, move to the city I wanted to.
It just, like, validated what I would always be, like, really self-conscious about.
Whereas
like,
my parents, I don't know. And my parents would always reiterate, like, hey, if we knew the best that you could do was, like, to get a C, we would be so proud of you if, like, getting a C. But we know that you're smarter than that. We've seen you be smarter than that. Like, you're selling yourself short. And so I think that was a good perspective. Mm-hmm. But for me, I was definitely very dubious of, like, outside validation or outside authority figures, because my mom, sort of being an immigrant in America, she's very, like, the government, it's like, it's not a fair system. You have to play the system. Like, you have to work smarter, not harder. Sometimes I would be like, well, if I know how to get a good grade on the test, maybe I don't actually have to, like, learn the information. So there are some, you know, advantages and disadvantages to that perspective.
Yeah. I was going to say earlier when you said that people may not know this about you, but you, like, question authority a lot.
Definitely.
I'm like, they would know that about you if they'd ever met your mom.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm not a very confrontational person, so people are like, oh, you respect authority, that's why you don't speak up. And I'm like, no, it's because I don't find it worth it to speak up, because I know at the end of the road, like, the government, you know, is too big of a system, or, like, I wouldn't be able to, like, fight or whatever. Like, I definitely am very conservative in terms of, like, my resources, or, like, when I spend my energy, which I think it goes into that sort of introverted nature. I also think part of that is adapting to my environment. Like, part of me thinks, like, maybe I wouldn't be such an introvert if I didn't have two very loud personalities in my family, like my sister and my mother, because they are very loud, and, like, when they argue, they're very, like, you know, animated and stuff like that. And so I know, like, I knew very young that if, like, my parents were mad at me, or there was an argument in the family or something, like, if I kept calm and if I chose my words wisely, I would be able to get where I want. If my parents were mad at me and I'd be quiet, they wouldn't punish me, you know, or they wouldn't get mad at me, because my parents weren't actually very good at punishing. Like, they never grounded us.
Oh, yeah. Same.
We were also, like, very well-behaved kids.
Yeah, I'm like, I never got grounded, but we also never really did anything.
Yeah, and so, and so I knew, like, my parents wouldn't get that mad at me if I didn't yell or whatever, whereas my sister was, like, she didn't control that, or for whatever reason she was, you know, she yelled a lot or would get very emotional, whereas I knew, like, I wouldn't get in that much trouble if I kept quiet. So I knew how to temper my emotions and be strategic on what I would say very early on. I feel like I sort of carry that into most social situations where I would observe first and then strategically choose how to express myself. Whereas, like, maybe if I didn't have such loud personalities, like, I wouldn't have to account for that when expressing myself. I wouldn't take other people into such consideration before expressing myself. Because I do really enjoy the company of others, which, like, extroverts, you know, the stereotype, not stereotype, but, like, they say introverts gain energy when they're alone, extroverts gain energy when they're with other people. And I do feel very energized when I spend time with people. But meeting new people is so draining for me because I constantly, like, meeting new people, I'm spending so much energy observing them, taking their social dynamics in, and, like, thinking about how best to make a good impression and stuff like that. Like, it's such a stressful situation for me. I feel very drained. Whereas, like, if I, you know, had all the time in the world, I'd be constantly, like, seeing concerts, meeting up with friends, scheduling hangouts and traveling and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that's a super introverted way of life. So I honestly struggle when to sort of categorize myself into extrovert versus introvert. But because I'm such, like, not an outgoing person, I'm like, I automatically am like, I am an introvert. Don't consider me an extrovert. I feel like that's, I will, like, not make a good impression.
Way to explain to new people who are meeting you, like, what they should expect. Because it's like, people that I know really well already know sort of how I am. And then, like, the only people that are, like, asking you if you're an introvert or an extrovert are people that you're, like, meeting. And I'm like, well, you should not expect me to act extroverted because I don't know you and you make me tired.
But I'm also the type of person, which is a very type 9 thing to do, is I let other people set the tone. So, like, when I can recognize someone is very quiet and reserved, like, I'll be the person to, like, fill the air and be very talkative because I know the other person won't play that role. But because of that, I'll be, like, very unsure of, like, oh, well, should I, like, use this part of my personality or should I set this side of tone?
I, like, try to do that, but I get very anxious if someone else is, like, quieter than me because I'm like, and everything I'm saying is stupid and honestly, not interesting.
Like, to bring it over to the astrology part of the personality test world, like, that's why I consider myself, like, I'm not a super outgoing person, so a lot of the Gemini stereotypes I feel like don't apply to me. But the adaptability part where you sort of shift your personality per situation or per, like, what people you're around, that I relate to, whereas, like, I'll definitely change my personality according to the tone other people set. So it is very, like, I said this to one of my friends where it was like, I'm only able to sort of shapeshift depending on the atmosphere I'm around because I'm so secure of, like, who I am as a person. Like, I don't mind acting a certain way to make you more comfortable. It's not that I'm, like, it's not that I not know who I am, you know? How do you phrase that? Like, it's not that I am uncertain about, like, what I think or how to act, but it's because I want to be considerate and, you know, like, I want someone else to like me and feel at ease around me and, like, have the very least amount of tension in the atmosphere. Like, if I sense something in you, I'll be like, I'll change in order to adapt to that. Because as long as there's, like, a not tense atmosphere, I'll be happy. So it's like that sort of ease of anxiety that I'm searching for around this new interaction. Then sometimes it is very, like, well, am I being authentic? And that's where I get into trouble, where it's like, oh, this person thinks I'm this type of person because I'm just reacting to that side of them. Whereas really, like, if they saw me in front of this other friend, they'd be like, you never act like that. Why are you acting like that? And I'm like, oh, well, they like it when I'm like this. And it's like why I like interacting with a lot of different types of people, because I get to explore different sides of myself, and they're all valid and they're all authentic. But yeah, it is tricky. Like, that's how I would describe someone like a type 8 would be like, they're the same person in front of everyone.
And they're confident about it.
Yeah, I'm not a confident person.
My roommate, who is also, in a lot of ways, pretty similar to us.
Do you know what type of personality she is on the enneagram?
No, I don't. But the other day, we were, like, working. Again, she's, like, the same with us, where it's like the confidence is just not there. And she complimented herself while she was working. She was like, yeah, go Maddie, or whatever.
Aww.
And then she was like, Dana, do you think I have toxic confidence?
No.
You compliment yourself
okay, anybody listening out there,
oh my god, I'm egotistical.
If you love yourself, that is,
it was just
there's
funny.
no limit to the amount
I was like, wow,
you can love yourself.
Call yourself, she'll like do something like,
the only type
she'll
of
be like,
toxic,
oh, you're so stupid to herself, and then she'll be like, oh no, you're not.
The only toxic confidence there is if you're only confident in relation to like putting someone else down. If you're basing your confidence or your sense of self on how you feel about other people, like you shouldn't feel confident because you're better looking than someone else or you're more outgoing than someone else. You should feel how you feel about yourself should only be about yourself, and how you feel about people should only be it should only be based on how you feel about other people. You know, take a very sort of, try and be as unbiased as you can. But is that enough introspection for this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, we have like 50 minutes.
I like talking about personality tests because I think it's a cool lens to view yourself and see sort of like ways where you're like, oh, I actually like my approach about those things. In some ways where you're like, actually, I realize I've been thinking about this thing like sort of in an insecure way, or like, oh, I never considered like other people might think this way. So I like taking personality tests in terms of like a lens you can see your behavior as well as other people's behavior. But I also don't believe like you take a test and it says this about you, that it's automatically true. And I think that turns a lot of people off from like astrology and like enneagrams and Myers-Briggs and stuff like that. Whereas I think it's just a cool way to like be introspective, and I think a lot more people should be introspective. But yeah. Hopefully this showed you guys a little bit more about us as podcast hosts, but also made you think about, oh, I actually didn't really think about it that way. Yeah. But
if you like other personality tests, and we should, take them.
Also, we're drunk, so maybe I didn't make any sense.
I thought it made sense.
Okay, so moving on to our next segment, we're doing a fun little drinking game for you guys tonight. We're going to play Truth or Drink. I actually found this drinking game from the TV show Game of Thrones.
Of all the places to hear about Truth or Drink.
But it's also, a pretty popular drinking game amongst college kids and stuff like that. So
and it's like a YouTube thing.
It's basically like, instead of Truth or Dare, you answer like a really personal question or a spicy question. Or if you don't want to answer it, you have to drink. So that's how we're going to play today. Do you have a preference of who goes first?
No.
Do you want to go first? Because I haven't thought about questions and you have a page pulled up.
I have a list of questions on the internet, but they're not like that crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't prepared any questions just so we don't, our answers are as authentic as possible. But we'll see. Choose one at random. I'm sort of reading over your shoulder as well.
If you could hire someone to do one thing for you, what would it be?
Oh my god, one thing? Hire someone to do one thing. That's such a loaded question. Hire someone to do a thing is so vague.
Yeah, that's
fine. So on the most basic level, I think I would hire someone to do laundry for me.
Like forever, or just like
I have a very specific way I like to do laundry. So if someone could figure out how I like to do things and to keep that standard, I would really appreciate it. Just because living in New York, I either have to hand wash things or pay a lot of money for a laundromat. So if I could and it usually takes the whole day, you have to set aside hours of time to do something, that if I could hire someone to just I don't have to worry about it anymore, I would totally appreciate that. But if I lived at home or lived somewhere with an in-unit laundry, it totally would be a breeze for me to take care of. But on a broader sense, if I could hire someone to do one thing, honestly, if I could hire someone, if I could just outsource my anxiety for someone to just double check whether I turned off the stove, or to double check whether I sent in my rent check, or if I wrote the right amount on my credit card bill, stuff like that, things I double check constantly. If I could save time on checking whether or not I turned off my curling iron, like that would save me so much time. But I think that's also just like me taking Prozac and like me taking anti-anxiety meds. So who knows? But all right, my turn. Okay, here's something that I actually have been interested in a while, but I've never really like got the urge to ask. What's your ideal type of guy? Like, what do you look for in a romantic partner?
See, this is the thing. I have no idea. Because
I feel like you're not someone who's like taking the time to like go on a ton of dates and sort of like quote unquote play the field.
I hate dating. Oh
like,
my god.
Like I'm the same way.
Dating. Oh my god. I think that, I mean, I'd say two of the biggest things that are very cliche are funny and smart.
Yeah.
But things that I've learned throughout my life is that are like a little bit more specific. They can't be too nice.
Yeah.
Not like they can't be mean, but if there's not like a level of sarcastic,
yeah. Well, I also think
banter,
like there's a level of being nice in a situation where it comes off as ingenuine or like too like, flat.
If someone is like so sweet that I'm like, I feel like weird if I want to like insult them or whatever, like jokingly.
Yeah, sometimes it comes off as like too flat of a personality where they don't have like different modes of like.
Yeah, I need like some like insulting banter. A little bit. Like, I need to feel like I can just be like,
that's
interesting. Shut up, you're stupid, whatever, you know?
For me, I don't think I'd go so far as to, like, insulting, but I need the banter of, like, being on that wavelength of sarcastic comments.
Yeah, and there's definitely people that, like, I can't. And then another thing I've realized is I need someone who is as outgoing or more outgoing than me, because I'm, like, kind of in a medium spot where, like, if I'm with people that are more outgoing than me, that's great, and I'll go do things with them and stuff. But if it's someone that's less outgoing than me, first of all, I get really anxious because I feel like I owe them, like, every moment of my time, but, like, they never want to do anything, and then I'm like, I want to go hang out with my friends, but I don't want to invite you every time I go, and then it's, like, this thing where I'm like, I don't want to be accountable to anyone.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't want to be accountable to someone who I know is just, like, at home, like, by themselves. I need someone who also has a life, and I need someone who like wants to go out and do things.
Yeah, I definitely like. I appreciate when someone like has an independent life and personality.
I need independence. I hate.
But it's
feeling
also
like I'm accountable.
Sometimes like I don't know. Like I've never been in a serious relationship, so I also feel like part of that is like, oh well, maybe I haven't like had that experience. Like I've been so independent for so long that maybe I'm just like not used to accounting for that. But I also like. I'm not the type of person where I have friends who in the past have been like, they get a boyfriend and then suddenly they don't have time for their other friends.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't know, I'm the type of person where it's like, you can't really find all of your needs met by one person. Mm-hmm. Like you do have to like sort of depend on, you have to have a support system who you gravitate towards.
I was like sort of dating this person once a few years ago, and it was like this problem where he was so nice and like, great dude, we're like still friends, but I don't want to be mean, but he didn't really have much of a life. Like where he lived, I was like one of the closest people around, and like most of his friends were like closer to the city and stuff, as were most of my friends, but he never wanted to go like hang out with them and stuff. He just wanted to hang out with me like out closer to where we lived and stuff. And I was like, I have plans with other people, but every time I went on and like did things with other people, or whenever he asked me to do something and I was like, I'm busy, I felt really bad about it, because I was like, I know that he's just like sitting at home alone, and that's sad, but I don't want to feel like I don't want there to be some thing where I like feel guilty and I'm like feeling guilted into hanging out with him, because I'm like, if I'm dating you, I want to hang out with you.
Definitely, yeah.
I don't want to just hang out with you because I feel bad. And so then it was a point where I was like, since I'm constantly worried that like I'm making plans and you don't have plans, but like you don't know these friends, like I just can't deal with this. And honestly, need you to have separate friends.
My mom actually said something to me that I was like, oh, I'm surprised that was so eloquent. But she said something that was like, two people need to be like strings on a guitar, where it's like they're vibrating at the same frequency, but they're parallel lines. Mm-hmm. You know, like they're still separate, but you're still in sync.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to like rely on you to feel like myself or to like live a life. But I also, like, you know, we shouldn't feel so separate that we're disjointed.
Yeah. Because I was like, I enjoy hanging out with you, but, like, I don't want to hang out with you all the time because we're dating.
Yeah, like
whatever.
they shouldn't get all their needs from just you.
Yeah, but I also know that anytime I'm doing other things, I feel like, well, I should have invited so-and-so because they're home alone, but they don't know any of these people, blah, blah, blah.
But I also never want to feel like there's a part of them that I have, that is unfamiliar to me.
Yeah. I just, I was like, I know that he does want to do these things, and I want to do these things.
Yeah.
We just weren't compatible in that way. And we're fine.
Yeah.
We're good as friends.
And I think that was a sign
friends.
that you were, like, good friends and not good at anything else.
He's a great dude. Recommend.
Yeah.
Single lady is not going to say any information about him. But
would be sad if he listened, but he knows.
I don't even know if he would. I really don't even know if he would know that I'm talking about him.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It could be one of a couple of people.
I remember the day...
I've had the same situation happen multiple
I remember
times.
the day where you were like, I cut it off, like, we're friends, but we're not going on any more dates, was the day that I accepted his friend request on Facebook.
Ooh, yikes.
But, okay, your turn. Ask me a question.
Do I do a PG-13 one?
Sure. I mean, there's so many questions on the page that she pulled up, so...
Would you sleep with a celebrity if you met them at a bar?
Definitely.
What celebrity is a no-brainer?
Oh, okay. So, here's the thing. If I was attracted to the celebrity, sure. Like, being a celebrity wouldn't be, like, a deterrent for me. But I wouldn't sleep with them just because they're a celebrity. Like, if I know them as a celebrity, but I'm not attracted to them, I'm not going to just sleep with them just to say that I did. But what celebrity is a no-brainer? There's, like, a list. Like, I have celebrity crushes. Do you want me to list them off for you now? Well, okay, so here's the thing. Is that I guess I have a type. I honestly don't know what the type would be labeled as. But I also, like, sometimes I'll find a celebrity attractive, but, like, they're old now. So, like, I would date them if I met them at the right age. Okay, so I've been in a phase of liking this one celebrity, and all of my friends know this.
I feel like we've talked about this.
So many times. Okay.
Like, on the podcast.
I love Jason Bateman.
Yes.
But I love, like, a 2012 Jason Bateman and, like, a 1989 Jason Bateman.
I was going to say, in 2012, he was still kind of old.
He was 42, 41? I have no idea. But he had, like, 2 good years. And they were 1989 and 2012. He had a beard in 2012. I didn't think that was a contributing factor to my attraction as a person. But as I've grown older, I've realized it plays a role. But he was a cutie when he was, like, on 80s sitcoms and stuff. And then he had a good year of 2012. Specifically when he filmed the film The Longest Week, I think it was called. But besides that, great actor, great director. He's too old now. He's too far gone. Besides that, I liked Bill Hader for a hot sec.
Love Bill Hader.
Love Bill Hader.
I would
love
marry Bill
Andy
Hader.
Samberg.
Also Andy Samberg.
That's probably the end of the list SNL-wise. I love a good musician. I like Taylor York from Paramore. He's in a relationship, off the market. I liked, Dustin Milligan, I think is his last name. Milligan? He's a cutie. I think anybody with, like, just like any brown-haired boy, if they've got texture in their hair, it's always a plus. Indie boys are always good. So if I met a celebrity at a bar, if they were any of those lists at the right age, I wouldn't say no. But any celebrity currently who's famous right now, who's the age they are right now, who would be a no-brainer?
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader is single as far as I know. He's got, like, 3 daughters.
Do I have a
If you had to answer for me, who do you think?
For you?
Yeah, because I'm trying to
At the age
think
right
back
now?
at all my celebrity
Does it matter
crushes.
if they're, like, currently in a relationship or not?
Let's say no, in a hypothetical situation.
Because it's like, to a certain extent, age matters, But then I'm like, if I'm just hooking up with them one time, and I'm
But
not, like,
honestly,
trying to marry
a lot of
whatever.
these celebrities I'm into, like, they seem like really nice guys, and because of that,
We have no idea.
they're in a relationship. Like,
Except for
they
Bill Hader.
deserve to have someone who appreciates them as much as they appreciate the other person. So I'm trying to think. I do like musicians, and I do like comedians. I feel like those are the two celebrity
Mulaney.
types.
He's got a lot going on right now.
I told you not to mention John Mulaney. My heart is broken. I'm desperately trying to find tickets to his from scratch show in NYC, but I was left wanting. And let's continue. Okay, so now it's my turn to ask Diana a question. Let's see your list.
This is the PG-13 section. You can
PG-13.
Go up or down.
Ooh.
But these are all like sex.
Okay.
related, which like, is that even interesting?
Okay, question. Two-part question. Is this cheating? Who knows? One, who were your high school crushes? And also two, have you ever had a crush on a teacher and or professor?
In high school and in college, I never had like young, cute teachers or professors. Like, it never happened for me. There were some young and cute professors or teachers that worked at my high school that I, maybe if they were my teacher, I would have had a crush on them. But I just never had them. Like, all of my teachers were women, or they were like
Also,
old, or
here's
they
the
were
thing.
terrible,
My favorite, like, best teachers who, like, really made me love the subject, all women. Men suck at
I
their
had
jobs.
a lot of female teachers, and then the male teacher I had were like old or like the dad like in a way that's like not sexy. So I never had any crushes on them. Same with professors. Like I was a computer science major. So most of my professors were computer science dudes, or they were old.
That does make a difference because
so,
I'm a liberal arts student / I loved English history, so those subjects tend to have hotter teachers.
Like, I took a creative writing class, and my teacher was like young, quirky, and artsy, but not in like a way that I liked. Like, it wasn't like sexy. But I'm sure if I had taken more classes that were outside of the engineering school, I would have like maybe had that encounter. But I just never, like, all my professors were like nerdy middle-aged men, or if they were young, they were like young in like a nerdy, quirky, cute way. But I was not like into them. Like, I had one professor who was like pretty recently out of grad school, and he actually started dating someone in my year, and now they're engaged.
Oh my god.
But he was not for me. I really liked him. He was one of my favorite professors, and we were like friends. But like, oh my god, no, I would never. So the answer to that question is no, but it could have happened. It just didn't. So to answer the first part of the question, I don't even know what the question was.
Do you have high school crushes?
Yeah.
Who?
I'm not gonna say
People in your friend group or
podcast.
just like strangers?
People I was friends with.
Oh.
Not necessarily
because
people that
I've
I'm, like, still
encountered
friends
this
with
problem
now.
when I've had a crush on. I don't think I've had a crush on like a close friend, but if I've had a crush on someone I know, I'm so nervous around them. I like don't talk to them, and I like cut them out of my life.
like-
And I've told people that and then gotten caught where they're like, oh, because Silvana said that, Silvana definitely had a crush on this person.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, how dare you
No,
see me?
I get that a lot. It's like in high school specifically, like, there were some people, or like one specific person where I was like kind of friends with him. We would like hang out and stuff, like sort of, I don't know. And then, but I was always so weird around him because I was like, I'm in love with you.
But sometimes I would like, if
but I had other friends that like, at certain, like, closer friends that like at certain points in time I was like, maybe we're gonna date, I don't know, and that would have been really weird and it would have been crazy. But it didn't like mess things up. Like, I could still be friends with them because I was like, oh, we're already like really good friends. And then people would be like, oh my god, you're gonna date, and then I'd be like, oh my god, what? And then we didn't.
Well, also, okay, so Diana might disagree with this, but viewers / listeners at home, Diana's the type of girl where a lot of her guy friends have crushes on her, and then she's like, sorry dude, we're just friends.
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's that I have a lot of guy friends, and I'm like just like,
or they mistake
friendly.
it for,
and so they always think that I'm like interested
that.
in them because like we'll like text a lot and stuff, and I'm like, oh no, I really value having like really close platonic relationships with anyone, like men, women, whatever. And so not always, like some people get the hint, but some people just are like, oh my god, a girl is paying attention to me, they're in love with me. So that happens a lot, and like some of them I'm sure read into it because they liked me, but then some of them I think were just like, oh, you like me.
For me, I've kind of run into the situation where it's like either I have such a crush on them that I like don't really talk to them anymore because I would get so nervous.
I'm like, if I really liked you, I would be so
I'm like,
weird.
I'm gonna try and avoid any anxiety I have, so I'm not gonna talk to this person. Or like this, like, a guy, like, this happened, like, twice, where a guy would be like, hey, like, actually, do you want to go out? Or, like, one time in high school, this guy was like, hey, this guy was gonna actually ask you to homecoming, and then he never did. And I was like, what? And then he was like, well, would you have said yes? And I was like, no. But I thought we were chill. And because I was like, oh, actually, like, no, thank you, after that they were like, and I get this too, like, they just stopped talking to me, and I was like, okay, like, I guess we're not gonna hang out anymore.
Yikes.
But I was also like, I mean, I thought we were like cool friends talking, you know, in class and stuff, but yeah, basically it's like, if I've had a crush on a guy friend, it's like, either I had a crush and I was like, I know he's not really vibing with me, so I, like, can't really stand to speak to him right now. Or it's been the opposite of, like, they've asked me out and I'd be like, no, but, like, do you want to still be friends? And they've been like, no.
Yeah. It's like the
and
guys
so I've
that
never found that happy medium of, like,
never,
we're close friends and we're vibing and we both feel the
It's
same
never been
way.
a situation where we're, like, both mutually equally interested in each other and then we start dating and it works out. It's always like, but it's also, they like me a lot and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. And then I just, I'm like, oh, I don't actually
it's like weird for me to try and, like, pursue someone without being friends or, like, getting to know them too. Like, I can't just, like, go out on dates with someone and get to know them on the pretense of, like, I find them physically attractive. Like,
I just, like, don't
that's
even know
too
how to
vulnerable.
talk. No, I don't
like,
know how
I
to
can't
talk to
show you
people.
all my cards.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, if I really like you, I cannot talk to you. But if I can talk to you really well, it means I don't like you. And so the guys are like, oh my God, she talks to me so much.
Which
and I'm
is
like,
like,
that means I don't like you.
Which has also prevented me from, like, entering a lot of relationships, because if there's romantic feelings involved, like, there's so many vulnerabilities that I'm like, oh, I don't like this, I don't want to be vulnerable. Whereas, like, if it's just, like, attraction, that I'm like, well, because we've just met each other, or, like, there's no pretense of, like, actually romantically liking you, then it's like, you know, there's no, then I'm not nervous.
But then they don't know that. They're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean there's no pretense? What do you mean?
Yeah. But
just staring at us. Our live studio audience.
Our cat knows all our deepest, darkest secrets.
I mean, literally.
Who asked the last question? Also, we're not
You
playing the game the
did.
way that we're supposed to, because
we're not.
I'm just taking sips from my drink and answering personal
Same.
questions.
You just asked me that question.
So now you ask a question. I feel like we both answered the same question either
Yeah,
way. There was a question that was like, where's your favorite place to fart in public? Everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't hold
One of
in
them
farts,
was like,
guys.
oh, have you ever
It's not healthy.
Have you ever farted on an airplane? Like, yes.
Literally,
Been
our
on, like,
last episode,
13-hour
I, like,
flights.
told the story about how I shat myself on a plane. Also, Jason Bateman once shat himself, and I feel like that connects us spiritually.
Because I'd rather pick one that will actually answer than one that we're like, oh, sip, sip, oh.
Ooh. I feel like that's also more interesting when I see, like, YouTubers do it, because, like, if they refuse to answer a question, like, you know, there's tea, whereas, like, we're just regular people and y'all don't know us.
If anyone in your family could win an award for being the most annoying, who would it be? Probably me.
Lol. Really?
Yeah, of the four of us. I mean, it depends on the type of annoying, I think.
Type of annoying. I don't think you're an annoying person, but I also don't think your family is annoying either.
Yeah, it's like...
I feel like you're a very chill family.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm lucky to be the person where I think, like, both you and your sister are cool.
I also think both me and my sister are cool. I think we're like similar enough at this point in our lives. I think most people that like one of us will most likely like the other one. Unless they like the things about us that is specifically different from the other one.
That is true. I also feel like I've encountered siblings that are very, like, polar opposites. Whereas I feel like you're, like, sort of similar.
Yeah,
like,
and
you
generally, like,
are interested in the same sort of
I
things.
think it helps that we get along really well. So it's like if I have friends, they know that I like my sister, and if they were to meet my sister, it would be, like, on good terms. Like, it wouldn't be a situation where we were, like, fighting or whatever at this point in our lives. So I'm like, I think, like, I like to think that Kara's friends generally like me, and my friends that have met Kara generally like her.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're name dropping.
But also, I also think, like, me and your sister have had the benefit of, like, going to the same college.
Yeah.
So we also, like, hung out.
You guys have had time
apart
from me.
In the club that we both were a part of. Oh, this is a fun one. Hey, what's your favorite drink? What's your, like, if you're at a bar with your friends, what's your go-to for your first drink?
Okay, this actually Oh, my battery's running low. But we're gonna keep going.
I think your cat is gonna make a cameo.
That's okay.
Hi, baby. Hi, baby girl.
I will if it's like a summery drink, and specifically if I'm in Europe, definitely an Aperol Spritz. I love
Oh my god.
Aperol
Okay,
Spritz.
so her sister on Instagram had a series where every time Diana ordered an Aperol Spritz, she
it was like the Diana
made a
drinks
story about
favorite
it.
story or whatever.
And that's actually, I took a screenshot of one of the stories, and that's part of
Aperol
our podcast icon.
I love
fun
Aperol.
fact.
Other than that,
The face
I like
of Aperol
a good
Spritz.
gin and tonic a lot.
Me too.
The like go-to like kind of shitty like rail drink would probably be a vodka cranberry.
Oh, that was my grandmother's go-to. We took her out to dinner every year on her birthday, and she'd go to my mom and be like, hey, if you order a drink, I'll order a drink. And they'd both order vodka cranberries.
Yeah.
Which is also, I found out later in my life, like every sorority girl's go-to.
Yeah, it's just, I don't like soda very much. Like, I would never do like rum and Coke. I like a lot of people do like vodka Sprite or whatever. I would rather do cranberry than Sprite. And so as far as rail drinks go, that would probably be, and like I gin and tonic rail drinks are usually like not that great, and so I'd rather just do like something like a vodka cranberry.
Ooh, okay. So here's a question that I found off your laptop.
Okay.
So you mentioned John Mulaney earlier, and it breaks my heart. If anybody's listening to this in the future, you probably know what we're referring to. But if you're listening to this right when it comes out, you know, there's been recent tabloid news about John Mulaney. So this next question is, would you ever hook up with someone else's partner? Because there's been rumors of infidelity, and I feel like in sort of, you know, mainstream ideology, there's this sort of exception where it's like, oh, if it's true love, like, you can forgive it as long as they end up together, and it's like they couldn't contain themselves. Whereas, like,
it's like a complicated problem, I think.
There are people that it's like cheating is a symptom of a larger problem in a relationship.
Yeah,
and there's also
true.
people that they cheat because they're insecure in their relationship and they want to prove something to
I
themselves.
will say, like, I
So,
think
like,
it's difficult to come up with a situation in which it's accepted. So it's like,
Yeah.
would I, if I knew that they were in a relationship, I would like to think that I would be like, no, it's not fair to your
I feel like
partner.
everybody's sort of like, hey, like, if you're serious about you liking me, you
then
have
leave
to
them.
resolve.
That's what I was gonna say. I think I don't think that there are very many situations in which it's excusable to not leave your partner first. Like, it's like, maybe there obviously are complicated situations, whatever.
Like, sometimes
but I think
it's like you meet
generally
someone.
blanket statement, like, if
It sucks,
you
like, if there's overlap,
if
but-
it's true love or whatever, then you'll fucking leave your current partner before you do it, because it's
But-
not fair.
But there's
It's just
also
not-
like
it's
that
not okay.
manipulation side of it where it's like they prolong that process where it's like, especially it's like if it's not even they have a girlfriend but they're married, then I'm like,
But I'm like,
if
you
you're
need to
the
make
type of
steps
person
to,
where it's like if you're married and you've gone to the point of your relationship where you're willing to cheat on them,
I'm
then
unwilling
you
to
don't
be the
you don't
person.
take the vows of marriage seriously, or you're not.
Yeah.
You've reached this point in your relationship, you're not willing to work on it, and you're not willing to leave.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just saying, personally, like, I am not willing to be that thing that you're like lying to your partner about or whatever.
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna
same.
fuck with that. Like,
'Cause
if
also
I
it's
know that
like-
you're in a relationship, no.
Yeah.
I don't care if I think it's true love. Like, you're not worth it because
also
you're
it's like,
still with someone.
if
like,
someone,
no.
I've also heard the thing where it's like you'll get someone the same way you lose them, in terms of like if you get together with someone in a scandal, like if you cheat with someone, like they're cheating on their partner to be with you, they'll end up cheating on you as well. But basically it's like the idea that if someone cheats in a relationship, they're the type of person who cheats, rather than like, it's not like, you can't blame the other person for the reason that that person is cheating. Like, if they're a cheater, they're a
that's
cheater.
like a problem with
Whereas,
themselves.
like, if you get in a relationship with
sorry.
someone like that, they'll cheat on you also, you know?
And
it's
like,
not a reflection on that other person, you know? It's a reflection on that
I would say, like, to a
partner.
certain extent, like, it's not even, like, the act of cheating, whatever you define that as. It's,
Yeah.
like, the fact that they had a wandering
Like,
eye
it's
enough
basically
to
their-
realize, oh, this is true love. It's, like, they're...
Yeah, it's basically a reflection of their poor conflict resolution skills. and like their inability to confront.
It's like obviously they're not having
recognize their emotions,
but they're letting themselves have this like deep, meaningful whatever with someone else.
Yeah, and honestly, that goes for emotional affairs, physical affairs.
Yeah, it's just a bad sign. I don't know.
Yeah, so honestly, if I found out someone was in a relationship, like that would be devastating, and I would stop it.
I wouldn't put it past myself to not know that someone's in a relationship and have something happen and then realize and be like, oh shit. But if I knew, definitely hard stop, like, no.
Yeah. It's the same thing where it's like if I realized I was in a relationship where I was like, hey, like I can see myself having like a wandering eye or like
it's not
searching for some sort of emotional needs
not...
to be met by somebody else.
Yeah.
Like it's time to end the relationship. Like clearly something's wrong. So I feel like you see that a lot in TV where it's like, oh, the exception is like if it's true love, like it doesn't matter if you're with someone else, like if you stay together, it was worth it. And honestly, there are people in real life who like they cheat on their spouse and then they marry the person they were having an affair with. But like even if it is true love, to be the responsible person, you have to end it. True love can wait
until you broke up with your ex, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like, if all you're avoiding is the legal paperwork, like, you can hire somebody to,
or just, take care of at least, like, separate. Like, do something that's, like...
Be honest with your intentions.
If your partner knows, then, like, that's why... It's like, oh, I don't want to get divorced yet because it's a hassle. But, like, my partner knows, and we're separated, and, like... this is not a breach of a relationship that I have right now, then, like, that's, you know,
because I also feel like we're part of that age where there are a lot of people are sort of, like, involved with people, but because there aren't... Violet! But because people aren't sort of black and white, or not black and white, but sort of clear about their boundaries in relationships or, like, whether or not they're exclusive, people are, like, because there's so much gray area... Yeah. They don't know where they're
like, oh, we never said that we're exclusive,
but the type of
we've
people,
been together for 2 years. Like,
it's super attractive to me for someone to be like very firm about where they stand,
like to be committed and to
be
like, I love my
like if
wife,
you're fucking 100% committed to me, like
my
hands down, I'm
rocks.
ready, right?
No. Anyway,
but if someone's like playing hard to get, like I know that's attractive to some people, but for me, if you're playing hard to get,
I'm not gonna fight for you. I won't even fight for me.
Half like disinterested, that's a turnoff to me. You know, where it's like if I'm not certain about where someone stands, I'm the person.
If you give me any reason to doubt that you like me, I will think that you hate me, and
but that's also like a fear of rejection. Anyway,
so
to round out the episode, we're going to, as we always do, sort of check up on our horoscopes and see how ominous they sound and to see if they relate to anything that's actually happening in our lives. So come in a little closer on camera, Diana.
Sorry about our framing. We had a problem. That's all the details.
We've had to reset our camera like 4 times.
Okay, so my horoscope today says, put your head down and get it done.
Also, I'm sorry we didn't follow the rules of truth or drink because we both drank and also told the truth. It wasn't either
Which I feel like I need to bring this mindset into tomorrow because I slacked off today a lot because Maddie and I went and like bought boxes and did moving stuff even though we're not moving for like 3 weeks. So I need to like actually get over that and do work tomorrow. And I have power in thinking and creativity, spirituality and self, pressure in routine, and trouble with social life and sex and love. So that's good. Today through Monday, are you looking for rigor? Today you feel torn between your need to plan and the need for flexibility. It's good to just pick things apart if that's what you need.
I feel like that's accurate.
Yeah. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. Okay, do. Asking permission, unplugging, and frankness. I'm bad at being frank.
Ooh.
Don't.
That's true.
Mixed messages, metaphor, and silent treatment. I don't think I'm giving anyone the silent treatment right now. So
yeah. I feel like I'll sort of work my way back forwards. So starting at the bottom of my co-star updates. Today through tomorrow, are you acting impulsively? I think I am. And I also feel like that's sort of just a response of like life throwing me the unexpected. And so I'm just sort of like going with the flow, acting impulsively, never planned for tomorrow. My lease is up in like a month and a half. Do I have plans? No. Anyways.
Whatever.
Today, you're sad, but you can't pinpoint exactly how or why. It isn't easy to contain yourself when you don't know what you need. Why do you judge yourself so harshly? Notice willfulness in yourself. Ask yourself, is this effective?
No.
I think that's a good question. Is this effective of like
the problem
getting what I want?
The answer is like always going to be no, and then I'm always going to be sad.
Yeah.
I'll be like, no, it's not effective, but I like it.
Here's the spooky thing. I've been drinking kombucha in my mixed drinks tonight.
That's
and it
effective.
says, do kombucha. Do takeout. We got takeout tonight.
Takeout.
Do cartoons. My friend has been texting me about cartoons all day.
Wow.
Don't clown suit. Haven't done that. Don't headlines. I have been reading John Mulaney headlines on Twitter. I'm so sorry. And then don't glass houses. Which is also, you know, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house, you know?
True.
Always check yourself. But today, the motto was kill your personal brand, which I feel like my whole career is about building personal brands. Like when you work in media, it's all about your brand, all about what you can offer somebody, your sort of public persona, which I feel like maybe I'm too preoccupied with, but also it's what I'm building by making this podcast. Kill your darlings. Totally for that. Anyways, power in routine, thinking and creativity, spirituality and self. We love that. Trouble with social life and sex and love. I constantly have trouble in my sex and love life, so nothing new. Trouble in my social life. I feel like we're vibing. We're good. We're friends. Life. I'm seeing friends in my hometown for the first time in a long time. That's been nice. But I'm also constantly looking for new friends. So if I DM'd you on Instagram, it means that I love you. Anyways, that's been us this week. I hope you have enjoyed us getting a little bit drunk and personal with you guys.
This is a very long episode.
We love to vibe. This will be a joy to edit.
This is almost 2 hours of
I hope all the technology worked out and we didn't lose any files. I have 4 video files to edit and 1 huge audio file. So, we love you. This is what we do for you to provide content. But also, we love just vibing out, sharing a drink with friends, and that's sort of the vibe we're going to. We're going for, oh my God. So, I'm a little bit drunk. I feel like you share that sentiment.
Yeah, I'm good.
Maybe I'll mix 1 more drink, and then I'll take a nap. A long winter's nap in mid-May. Anyways, so I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Featuring my cat.
Yeah, we love you and we like you. And thanks for listening. Bye.